This is Taylor Raymond Crane out of Fort Wayne, Indiana. And I've covered Indiana quite extensively the last few years. I was in East Chicago covering the lead contamination story there that never got its due. Obviously, I went to South Bend to cover Mayor Pete Buttigieg last year, who now I see is doing, Jen just sent me, Hillary Clinton and Pete Buttigieg are doing a joint fundraiser. So that's exciting. But I wanted to talk to you, before we get to your arrest, can you kind of give us a background? Fort Wayne, Indiana, about 80 miles from Indianapolis. Indiana has, quite an extensive history, I would say, in terms of racism, white supremacy, that kind of thing. So obviously it would be an area where there'd be protests. There have been police killings of unarmed black men. So talk to me about the history of Fort Wayne before you get to what happened with you and your arrest.
The history of Fort Wayne with our criminal justice system here in Fort Wayne, we get touted a lot about having the most state-of-the-art criminal justice system in the nation, and our elected officials and like our prosecuting attorney and our sheriff, even our judges, they all work in cahoots with each other. And they play dirty tricks all the time. And a lot of the time they'll just try to throw charges at people and see what will stick. And we're dealing with a lot of that right now here in Fort Wayne. I've heard of over 130 to even 150 cases of where people are just having charges thrown at them for no reason, just so that they can see if they can get something to stick. Fort Wayne's a very progressive but yet conservative city. Certain parts of the city are extremely conservative. The neighborhood that I live in is extremely racist and conservative. And then you have your very liberal parts of town that are, in my opinion, not represented by true progressives here in Fort Wayne. And they kind of just now are starting to getting around and speaking for the people when it comes to the way that the Fort Wayne Police Department treats their constituents.
So talk to me about the protests. Obviously in each city, protests have been supporting the overall cause of Black Lives Matter, but certain cities have been protesting specifically for black men who have been killed in their neighborhoods. So the protests that have been going on in Fort Wayne, you've been one of the active people there. Have they been overall protesting on, for the overall message, or are there specific black men who have been killed by Fort Wayne police that has been kind of sparking people to get out there?
I have not heard much about specific black men that have gotten killed. There has been some murmurs of stuff like that happening. A lot of the something like that, in my honest opinion, would kind of not really make the media, wouldn't really make any waves. It would make waves in the community. But again, I live in a really racist community. And honestly, if those things had happened, I might not even hear about it,
okay,
to be honest. But yeah, this is there's a lot of division. There's so many different groups and organizations that are part of these protests. There's been a lot of division since that first day, and our mayor wants to have unity. Well, the only unity that I need to see is that the division in these Black Lives Matters protests, they need to unify instead of arguing with each other, so that we can fight for our rights.
So talk to me about what happened with you, because a couple days ago you're protesting. How many people were there, and what happened next?
Okay, so actually I was protesting from the 29th to the 31st, and I didn't protest for about another 2 weeks. I was arrested on Friday, but I'll go back. So the day that they arrested me for, under the probable cause affidavit that I've looked at, is for the 29th, which ironically happens to also be the one day that I did not record my every move that day, because I was live streaming almost every day other than that day. on Facebook. So, on the 29th, I'm on the courthouse lawn. I'm actually trying to pass a battery back up to one of our mainstream media people because their phone is dying, because I wanted it to be, televised. I wanted people to be able to see it. So I said, okay, I've got this massive 2200 milliamp battery. I'm going to take it to Tom Powell. I'm going to give it to him so he can stream this. And as I'm handing him the battery, I get tear gas launched all around me. You can't escape it. It's being launched in front of me, beside of me, on both sides. It got launched behind me. You can't escape it. And I eventually did get to escape it. I literally felt like I was going to die. I've been tear gassed before, and I have never gotten tear gassed that bad ever in my life. And fortunately, I recovered. After that, I kind of stayed in a public parking lot at what's called our Citizen Square building, which is where the mayor's office is. And again, I was tear gassed with tear gas canisters. That it was just they were like 20 feet away from me, and the wind just drifted it right towards me and members of the media. And so that, these protests went from the Allen County Courthouse, which is right in the middle of downtown Fort Wayne, and they moved from there to the Martin Luther King Jr. Bridge, which is down Clinton Street, just north of the Allen County Courthouse. And they also marched from the courthouse to the Martin Luther King Jr. Bridge, down 4th Street, down, and then they just did a whole circle, roughly about a 10 block radius of a circle around there. Police came out on the 29th, that Friday. They gave no warning. They didn't send any, standard uniform officers to come out there and say, hey, you guys need to stop this. And they just straight up came out in riot gear, didn't ask any questions, started pepper spraying people as they were trying to push people off the sidewalks, which is public land. And then they started launching tear gas canisters, which, as you may know, one of my friends, Balin, got hit in the eye and lost his eye that Saturday, the next day. Daisy, get down.
Ooh, cute puppy.
Yeah.
Actually, tell the audience about that. They might not know.
About Balin?
Yeah, who lost their eye?
Balin Brake actually got hit with a tear gas canister. I met him. I met his mom and him over Facebook, and they're trying to say that he was throwing stuff, that he was picking up a canister and throwing it. But I have several witnesses that are stating that he was not throwing it. He was running away, and he was turning around to see what was going on behind him, and a canister hit him in the eye, and the doctor was not able to keep it. So he's lost his eye. And we are ready to support Balin if he decides to sue for that loss of his. Mm-hmm. But yeah, he lost his eye. The city of Fort Wayne, the mayor, on Saturday morning, the mayor and the chief of police, Chief Reed, so Mayor Tom Henry, Police Chief Steve Reed, and Allen County Sheriff Gladio had a press conference where they tried to say that, a bunch of these protesters were from out of state, that they're just trying to cause problem, the whole Antifa, narrative. Mm-hmm. And all the arrests, if you go through the lists of arrests, there was only a small handful of people who were not from Fort Wayne. If they weren't from Fort Wayne, they were from smaller cities that are within literally 50 miles of Fort Wayne, and in the very small few, I think it's like 3 or 4 that aren't within that 50-mile radius, they have ties to Fort Wayne. They either lived in Fort Wayne, they're going to school here, or something like that. So that whole narrative that false narrative they're trying to push of, these outside people are coming here and trying to cause a problem. No, these are the voters. These are the people out here saying that Black Lives Matter and that all lives can't matter until Black Lives Matter.
Mm-hmm. And when you were arrested, were they arresting other people or did they kind of target you? Because what I've seen is you seem like somebody who, you know, I don't know, like I don't know if you organized the protest, but a leader that distributes information, people follow. So in my experience, a lot of times police will identify certain leaders of different protest movements and try to take them out, arresting them, things like that.
So on Thursday, I had confirmed the address of our prosecuting attorney, Karen Richards. That morning, after I had confirmed that that was her official address, I started a Facebook event. I'm a very active, member of the community. I helped lead the charge for the Bernie Sanders campaign here in Fort Wayne. So I've got a lot of people behind me, a lot of people who look, at me for, what's next, Taylor. Within just even a couple of hours, there was at least 100, maybe 200 people who were planning on protesting in front of our house. Ironically, not even just a few hours after I had posted that Facebook event for that protest, a warrant was issued for my arrest. And then the next morning, Friday morning, after the ACLU lawsuit that I'm a part of was filed, I get arrested at work. I asked the employees to take my phone and my watch, and the police handed them my phone and my watch. I gave my PIN code to the employee and told them to hold on to that stuff. And then after they put me in the car, the police told my employees that I wanted my phone and my watch.
So I have this straight. You weren't arrested at the protest. They came after the fact, after you had been a co-signer of a lawsuit?
Yeah.
So explain to me what the lawsuit was and who else was on it.
So the lawsuit is with the ACLU. They are the ones representing me. They are representing also Kendall Diamond and Matt Kramer. Mm-hmm. I do have word that several of my friends, which I won't disclose their names just yet, but several of my friends that that I know that they fit within the narrative of this lawsuit are also going to be joining. So this lawsuit is for violating our First and Fourth Amendment rights under the United States Constitution. As I said earlier, I was on the courthouse lawn when I got tear gassed. I didn't mention that I also got hit with a rubber bullet on Saturday while I was also on public land at what's called Fryman Square, which is a park that's just catty corner from the courthouse. And then I also had a concussion grenade used against me while on the sidewalk. So this lawsuit is against the city of Fort Wayne, and it's against the Allen County Sheriff. Mm-hmm. I've got the paperwork right here. We filed that. Ken Folk, my attorney with the ACLU, he filed that Friday morning, very early in the morning, like 7:40 something. And then at around 11:30, police showed up at my place of work and arrested me in front of customers and everything. So. And
when was the protest that they were citing your arrest for?
The 29th, that first day of the protest.
So at the beginning of this interview, you kind of talked about Fort Wayne and they're all kind of on the dole together and all this. Can you kind of talk about, like, it's not like, it doesn't seem to me possible that 3 weeks after the protest, all right, you sue and then they come to your office without the mayor knowing about this, the higher-ups knowing about this. So it just seems like a pretty brazen attempt to silence dissent and intimidate protesters.
Yeah, the thing is, our prosecuting attorney and our sheriff are, Republicans, hardcore conservatives. I live in the middle of Trump country, so we're dealing with that.
Who, by the way, just tweeted out today or retweeted some senior citizens at the Villages saying white power, and then quickly deleted it after getting criticism. So just an update on Trump. Yeah.
So, and then And then we've got our judges, which are supposed to be nonpartisan, but they're clearly Republicans. Our Republican, the city of Fort Wayne in itself as a city is is in its eyes progressive. But as far as Allen County as a whole, it's a very deep red county, and it is intolerable sometimes. So if you're the prosecuting attorney and you're a Republican, you're the powerhouse of the county, or if you're the sheriff, and then they all work together. They're all buddy, and they're gonna have each other's backs. The funny thing is, 4 years ago, I was arrested for shoplifting, and I was ROR'd, released on my own recognizance in like 3 or 4 hours. But these protesters who are, by the way, shoplifting is a Class A misdemeanor. So Class A is just below being a felony. Well, me and the other protesters are being charged with Class C misdemeanors, and we're being given no bond initially. So they're forcing us to have to stay in the jails when, 4 years ago when I had a Class A misdemeanor, I was ROR'd in like 4 hours. But now Frances Gall, the head judge here in Allen County, she's like, no bond, because white power, in my opinion. That's what I think she's going at.
Do you have any hope if it's President Biden? Do you have any fears?
Yeah, no. To be honest, I do not. I don't see his administration doing anything, productive in these matters. We need existential change, something that Bernie Sanders would have done as both the Democratic nominee and as president of the United States. I don't believe that Biden empowers the true progressives in this nation. So he doesn't have the ability to make any movements. When Barack Obama was elected, he had this coalition, and then he did nothing for 2 years. And then I can't remember if it was the House or the Senate that he lost 2 years later. I think it was the House. Yeah. And then he pushes through his Affordable Care Act, and then it just gets gutted. Barack Obama at least had progressives pushing for him because he, made himself out to be this progressive candidate. Granted, he wasn't really in the long run when we found out. And, we know that Biden is not a progressive. He's a centrist Dem that just wants things to go back to the way they were. Well, back to the way they were is not moving forward, and that's what we want. We want to move forward. Right.
Any last words for the audience, what they should be doing in their community, and anything about your situation?
I'm telling everybody, if you get charged with something, fight it. Don't get a plea, fight it. Look for finances, raise money, find an organization who's willing to help with your charges. And as far as myself, I'm fighting charges right now. I am raising money. If people want to go to my Facebook page, it is public. Anyone can go to it. I do have a Facebook fundraiser on there. They can donate money. I will take this case as far as it needs to go, and I will battle it tooth and nail, and I will speak for those who cannot speak.
I just dropped your Facebook page in our chat, so people can take a look at there. Thank you, Taylor. Appreciate it. Keep me in the loop about this case, the charges, and we'll stay in touch.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, man. Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.